Namaste. Am I audible? Correct. Namami Dhanvantaram Adidevam Surasurehi Vandipada Padmam Loke Jararuk Bhayamrityunasham Dataramesham Vardausham. Okay, so today we're going to do Agni. We did this in I think my first class was Agni with you guys. So today we're going to do Agni in a little more detail. So we're going to we just kind of learned the basics in the first class, and now we're going to do it in detail. Not in detail, but a little more detail. So today we're going to see what is Agni, digestion in Ayurveda, the functions of Agni, 13 different types of Agni, Agni and doshas, the relationship between the three doshas and Agni, the different states of Agni, and one important concept called Ama. So like we've already seen in the previous class, Agni means fire, or Agni is something that ignites. So Agni is hot, sharp, dry, light, mobile, and subtle. So these are the qualities of Agni, and these qualities are similar to qualities that Pitta and Vata have. So in short, for Agni to have to be good, for Agni to have good quality, it is important for you to have certain good qualities of Pitta and Vata. So these are two important factors as far as Agni and Agni's functioning goes. Now Kapha has qualities that are completely opposite to that of Agni. For instance, Kapha is cold, Kapha is heavy, Kapha is a little more, it doesn't move around as swiftly as Vata and so on. So the English word ignite is derived from the Latin root called ignis, which is related to the Sanskrit word Agni, and Agni means fire, like we've already seen. So these are certain common these are like certain common factors or functions of Agni. We'll look at functions in detail again, but just a awareness. Each cell in the body is a center of awareness. G, governor. So basically Agni governs structural and functional activities of all cells and tissues, as well as the full digestive process that happens in the body. And nutrition of all body tissues, and also Agni plays an important role in neutralizing toxins. So for if you have armor, again this is a concept that we're going to start today. So if you have armor, if you have certain toxins in your body, it is important to have good Agni, because Agni is what will digest that armor, will digest the toxins, and thus neutralize it. And I for intelligence. So cellular intelligence and cellular selectivity and choice is also governed by Agni. So basically Agni is like the force of intelligence within each cell, each tissue, and every system within the body. So ultimately, it is this discernment or judgment of Agni that will determine whether, it will determine which substance has to enter the cells, which substance has to enter the tissues, and which substance has to be removed and eliminated as waste products, and so on. So in that sense, Agni is like the gatekeeper of life. It is like the gatekeeper of prana. Now, Agni is fire element. So we've learned about the Pancha Mahabhutas, and Agni is one of the five Mahabhutas. It is the fire element. It governs all transformation. The Agni that we're going to learn about today is Agni that is present within the body. We're going to give a lot of importance to the digestive Agni and the other different types of Agni, but all this Agni that we're going to see today is what is going to help in digestion, in absorption, in assimilation, and transformation. life is not possible without Agni. So basically, Agni is the vital fire, and an optimally balanced Agni leads to a healthy immune system. So if your Agni is good, then you have good immunity and you're healthy. If your Agni is bad, if there is an impairment in your Agni, then that means you have some sort of a disease, or you have, all all diseases, all conditions that we're going to learn about in Ayurveda. When you learn Nidana, when you learn Chikitsa, when you learn different other different subjects in Ayurveda, every disease that we learn, there will be a problem with the Agni, there will be an impairment of the Agni. Now, what happens basically is we eat food. Once this food is ingested, food has to be digested, has to be absorbed, assimilated, and then transformed into energy and nutrients, which is then circulated to different parts of the body. And this very function is done by Agni. So that's what we're going to learn today. So, what is Agni? Agni is radiant energy. So, Agni plays an important role in maintaining the body temperature. The digestive enzymes that help and aid digestion, that is governed by Agni. Again, the amino acids, the metabolic activities, the entire process of digestion, all that is governed by Agni. And the main Agni in the body is your Jatara Agni, or the gastric fire, the digestive fire. That is the main Agni in the body. And when a person comes to you with a problem, with a disease, that is the Agni that we are going to examine, and that is the Agni that we are going to treat, this Jatara Agni. So, for an Ayurvedic physician, Jatara Agni becomes the most important. It's like one of our most important mantras. Jatara Agni has to be normal, has to be good. Oh, you can't see everything? Uh, Wait a minute, let me just. How do I, yeah, how do I make it? Is it okay for everybody else? Because this is like the normal slide. I don't know how to make it smaller than this. Monica ji, is it okay for you? Is there any way that I can make the screen? Alright, it's okay for everybody else? Okay. Perfect. So I think there's something, maybe it's something to do with your computer. Okay. So now moving on to Agni Deva. So Agni Deva. Agni is again fire, and Deva means God. So Agni Deva, Agni is the physical fire, and the energy of this physical fire is what we call Agni Deva, right? Is the god of Agni. In olden days, when there were pujas and when there were yajnas that were done, Agni Deva had to, you had to please Agni Deva. So there were offerings that were given to Agni Bhagavan, to Agni Deva, in order to satisfy Agni Deva, in order to please Agni Deva. And the most important thing is, only when Agni is satisfied, only when Agni is pleased, will you have health, will you have immunity, will you be able to do your normal functions. So this is a representation of Agni Deva. He has 2 faces, 3 tongues, 7 arms, and 3 legs. So the 2 faces represent creation and destruction. It just goes on to tell you that Agni is important for creation of life, for creation of dhatus, for creation of the different organs. And if Agni is impaired, if there's too much of Agni, if there's too little Agni, then Agni can even be it can even lead to destruction. 3 tongues represent the 3 doshas. So it can be the physical doshas, which are Vata, Pitta, and Kapha, or the Manasika doshas, which is Sattva, Rajas, and Tamas. So that is the representation of the tongues. 7 arms represent the 7 dhatus. The 3 legs represent the physical body, the mental body or the manas, which is your mind, and consciousness. So Agni represents the unified functioning of all these components, which is your entire, your entire well-being, your entire body is summed up with these components. I'm sorry. Okay. So now, if you remember, in the first class, we saw a very simple picture of a pot with food in it. We saw Pachaka Pitta, Jhataragni, and and the Amashaya or the stomach. It was a very simple representation that we saw. So now we're going to learn that in a little more detail. So this pot represents your stomach or the Amashaya, and water that is present represents Kledaka Kapha. So basically, Kledaka Kapha, sorry. So this water is the Kledaka Kapha, and the food is the food that you have ingested. Now, when we do Annavaha Shrotis, we learn about the different doshas, the sub doshas, and what they do for your digestion. But now we're just going to learn the part from the stomach onwards. We're not doing the sub doshas or anything. So this Kledaka Kapha basically moistens your food. That's why it's represented with water. It moistens your food, and it's basically the mucosa lining that is there in the stomach. Now you ingest your food. Now the process of digestion happens. Again, we're not going to learn the process of digestion, but we're just going to see the importance of Agni over here. So this fireplace is Grahani, or the small intestine, and it is inside this Grahani that you have your Agni. Agni is the digestive fire that's going to help process the food and digest the food. For a flame to happen, you need to have air. So that air comes in the form of Samana Vayu, which is present very close to this Agni. So only if the Samana Vayu is good can the Agni be of good quality and of the required potency of Agni comes only when Samana Vayu is in good condition. Then you have Pachaka Pitta, which is the most important dosha that is present in the stomach, and that aids this entire process of digestion. Pachaka Pitta is very important for your Agni to function, for your digestion to happen. But this Pachaka Pitta is not the digestive fire. On the contrary, it's actually the digestive enzymes that aid in the process of digestion. So there's a difference between Jhataragni and Pachaka Pitta. The Agni here is Jhataragni, the digestive fire. And for this fire, and for this, even if you have Vayu and you have Agni and you have, you have the fire, you need to have fuel for this fire to first of all light the fire, right? So that fuel comes in the form of food that was eaten the previous day, and food that was already digested and that was already processed. That is the fuel. So in order for your Agni, in order for you to just have this Agni, and for the Agni to have its function, and for your process of digestion and everything else, you need to make sure that you keep giving it fuel. You need to make sure that you eat on time, you eat regularly, and then only then does this Agni keep going. So it's like a continuous process that happens. It happens every day. Okay, does this make sense? Is this easy to understand? Like I told you, when we do Annavaha Shrotis, we're going to learn it in a little more detail. Okay. So now the functions of Agni. Pakti. Pakti means digestion. When you cook something, that's called pachanam. Pakti. That's a word that's derived from pachanam, where you cook something. So Pakti means digestion, absorption, assimilation of food. and sensory experience yielding nutrition, knowledge, and understanding. The next function is darshana. Darshana means visual perception, seeing something. That is darshana. Matroshna, which means maintaining the body temperature. Then Prakriti Varna. Prakriti Varna means the constitution and color, complexion. That is Prakriti Varna. Varna means color, complexion. Shauryam. Shauryam means confidence, courage, fearlessness, being very brave. That is Shauryam. Prasada means mental clarity, wholeness. It also means being happy, being content, being clear. That is prasada. Raga. Raga means affection, interest, enthusiasm, attraction, or basically attachment. That is called raga. Dhatu Poshana. So for your dhatus to be formed and to be created, Agni is important. So um, dhatu poshana. It's important for the formation and creation of dhatus and for nourishment of dhatus. The next thing is Oja Kara, means the production of ojas and immunity depends on your Agni. Harsha. Harsha is joy, happiness, being cheerful. Tejakara. Tejakara means production of tejas. So Agni, Tejas, and Pitta, they are very closely related, and we're going to see that also. So for Tejas to be there, for the production of Tejas, Agni is important. Pranakara is production and utilization of prana, of the very fact that if you have to be alive, if you have to go about your daily routine, and if you have to breathe in your air, and if you have to just have that life, prana in you, you need Agni. Buddhi. Buddhi means knowledge, logical thinking and reasoning. That is called Buddhi. Medakara means for the formation or production of intelligence and cellular communication. So that is Meda. Medas is basically your intelligence. Dhairyam means being brave, having patience, stability, confidence. Dirgam. Dirgam means long. So in this sense, Dirgam means having a long lifespan, having a very long, healthy life. Prabha. Prabha is glow and luster. So if your Agni is good, you'll have good, healthy Prabha, healthy glow and luster. And the last thing is Bala. Bala means strength and vitality. So these are the functions of Agni. Okay. So now the 13 types of Agni. There are 13 types of Agni. 5 Bhuta Agni. So Bhuta Agnis are the Agni that is present in the elements, in the Pancha Mahabhuta. So you have space Agni, air Agni, fire Agni, water Agni, and earth Agni. Now, the importance of this Bhuta Agni is that when you eat food, say you're eating something like, say you're eating a root vegetable. So when you eat any food for that matter, it is made up of these Pancha Mahabhutas. So if you eat a root vegetable, it is made up of, it has air element, it has earth element. So what this earth Agni does is it goes and it digests the earth element in that food. Your air Agni will digest the air element in that food. Say for instance, you're eating watermelon, or you're eating a vegetable that has a lot of water content in it. So that vegetable would have water Agni, water element. It would have earth element. It would, certain things would have space element. So when that food is eaten, when that food is ingested, the earth element will, the earth Agni will digest the earth element. The water Agni will digest the water element. The fire Agni will digest the fire element. The air Agni, the air element, and the space Agni will digest the space element. Now, this Bhuta Agnis are present in the liver. So that is where that particular digestion happens with the Bhuta Agnis. Then you have the 7 Dhatu Agnis. Now, This is Rasa, Rakta, Mamsa, Meda, Asti, Majja, and Shukra, the 7 dhatus. Each dhatu has a specific dhatu agni. So for your Rasa dhatu, for the creation and formation of Rasa dhatu, the Rasa dhatu agni has to digest the nutritious portion of the food, and then that will form the Rasa dhatu. When your Rakta Dhatu is formed, the Rakta Dhatu Agni will digest the portion, and Rakta Dhatu is formed. We'll learn about creation of Dhatus much later, but you just need to know that each Dhatu has a specific Dhatu Agni, and that Dhatu Agni is responsible for the creation of that specific Dhatu. That's all you need to know with this Dhatu Agni for now. And then the most important Agni, the Jhatar Agni, or the digestive fire. It is present in the Amashaya, and when you eat your food, once the food gets into the stomach, like what we saw in the previous slide, this Jhatar Agni is what helps to process the food, to digest the food, and absorption, assimilation, and transformation. All that is aided by Jhatar Agni. So like I told you, when a client comes to you and when you examine the Agni, it is this Jhatar Agni that we are examining, and it is the Jhatar Agni, it is that Agni that we're going to learn about, to see in what avastha it is, what dosha is involved, and so on. So now the relation between the different Agnis and the doshas. So Vata with Agni plays an important role for your sensory perception, for mastication, for autonomic signaling. Pitta and Agni for the production of digestive enzymes, for HCl production, for the carbohydrate digestion, for metabolic processing, and so on. And Kapha and Agni is basically the fluids, the gut lining, the mucosa that we saw. That is your Kapha, the Kledaka Kapha. In the beginning of digestion, you have another Kapha that helps in chewing the food, that helps in swallowing the food, and so on. And bacterial colonization and all that is aided by the Kapha dosha. So this is a relation between the different doshas and Agni. Now, when we learn about the different types of Agni, the different types of Jhatar Agni, we'll again see what each dosha can do to the Agni. So these three things are interrelated: Pitta, Agni, and Tejas. So there is no Agni without Pitta, and there is no Pitta without Agni. So both these have that fire element, that warmth in it, the fire element. So Pitta and Agni, they don't function without each other, and they don't exist without. Agni is the energy, that is the subtle matter that is present in Pitta, and even a smaller, a subtler energy of Tejas is present within the Agni. And these three, they are interrelated, and they don't exist without each other. Now, how do the three doshas affect Agni? So now imagine you have a bonfire, and you have a lot of air, lot of vayu that's being blown onto this bonfire. So the bonfire will initially, it might flare up a little more, and then there's a lot of disruption that happens. So it will either get put off with the air, the excess air, or it might flare up a little more. There might be a few, there might be fumes coming up, and a lot of disturbance happens when there is air. That is what Vata does to your Agni. Vata might decrease the Agni, it might increase the Agni. It just basically causes a lot of disturbance in your Agni. Okay. Now imagine the same bonfire. Imagine you're pouring water on it. You're pouring something that's very wet. You're pouring a lot of water on that Agni. You're reducing the Agni. You're making the Agni very slow, and you're putting off the Agni. So that is what Kapha does to Agni. If you remember in the beginning, we saw that Kapha has gunas that are absolutely opposite to the gunas of Agni. So this is what happens when you pour a lot of water, when you know put off the Agni. There's either no Agni or there's very little Agni. There's very mild Agni. So that is what Kapha does to your Agni. Now for Pitta, it can either increase or decrease your Agni. So it's easy to understand how Pitta can increase your Agni. Pitta and Agni have the most common quality, which is heat. Agni, fire. So if there is excess Pitta, normally it should increase your Agni, it should flare up your Agni, and there'll be a lot of Agni. But how does Pitta decrease your Agni? Any guesses on that one? Anybody, can you think of a property, can you think of a quality that Pitta has that can probably decrease Agni? You know the qualities of the three doshas, right? You've done the three doshas and you know the qualities of the three doshas. So can anybody tell me the quality? Yes, water, dravatvam, the wetness of pitta will put off the Agni. Yes, exactly. So that will decrease Agni. So the importance of this is, if a person who has pitta comes to you, you examine the nadi and you examine the person, you do prakriti, vikriti, and you say, okay, they have pitta. But they have they have very little Agni, there's no Agni. And you're wondering what happened. So it needn't be a kapha vitiation or a vata vitiation, but even when there's excess pitta, it can lead to a decrease in Agni. You have to keep that in mind when you examine the Agni. Is this easy to understand? Does this make sense? Because it's very important to know the effect of these three doshas and Agni. Does this make sense? Did you understand this? All right. Okay. So now what impairs Agni? No, not the digestive enzymes, but just the innate quality of water called dravatvam. Sorry, of pitta called dravatvam. That is wetness of pitta. So when there is excess pitta, but it's not the Agni in pitta that increases, but the water element or the wetness of pitta that increases, that will put off the fire. Not the digestive enzymes or the fluid. It's that quality of wetness that will put off the fire. That's a good question. Yeah. So, what impairs Agni? If you eat too much of food or you eat very little food in one shot, that can impair your Agni. So, when I say impair your Agni, it can either be an increase in your Agni or a decrease in your Agni, or some kind of a disruption in your Agni. Eating at the wrong times of the day. So there are a lot of people who have the habit of eating food late at night, midnight craving, and the thing that most of us like eating late at night is ice cream or some sort of dessert. All of us have those really bad cravings at all the wrong times. All that can disrupt your Agni. Eating food when your Agni is low. So as part of your Prakriti, it's normal, to have kapha early in the morning, and we have that chart, right, where we have one dosha that is predominant at different parts of the day. So when your Agni is low, when your Agni is weak, at that point, if you eat food, that can lead to impairment of Agni, that can lead to indigestion, and that can lead to formation of ama. Eating between meals or skipping meals. Now, again, this is a very commonly seen thing where people skip breakfast. You wake up late, you're hurrying to work, you're in the middle of so many other things. You don't eat breakfast. Now, that's the worst thing to do to your body is skipping meals, especially skipping your breakfast. You don't lose weight doing that. There are people who diet and they you drink maybe a glass of green tea and they don't eat anything else. that harms your body way more than you can imagine. So that will impair your Agni, and that will lead to a lot of other complications. Bad food combination. So having yogurt with fruit, having soup and salad together, having equal quantities of ghee and honey together, having food that is made with honey that is cooked or heated. You don't heat honey, you don't cook honey, but there are a lot of dishes that are made where honey is added, and honey is cooked. That is bad for your health. That's bad for your Agni. People who eat fish and milk together is like poison. It will lead to an impairment of Agni, and it will lead to a lot of other problems. Just basically eating what is opposite. The examples that were given, right? So just basically eating, I'm sure when you talk to people, when you have clients, you'll have clients who eat a lot of red meat, and who eat meat 3 times a day. All that is bad for your body, all that is bad for your Agni. That Because your Agni, you have to give in more, more fire. Your body has to really digest the food by giving in more Agni, by increasing the Pachaka Pitta, and it leads to a lot of imbalance within the body. Stress while eating. Oh yes, yogurt with berries is a very common, is like a staple breakfast for a lot of people. But that's bad for your Agni. If you still eat that, you should stop eating that. You're kind of ruining your Agni by doing that. This is another important point. It's just basically opposite qualities. If you have something that's that is completely opposite, they don't digest. For instance, when you have soup, normally soups are are easier to digest, they're lighter, but salads are very heavy to digest. They're raw, they're heavier to digest. So you're basically putting two opposite qualities together, so you're confusing your body on how to digest that food. That's just the thing. So yes, that is so wrong. Right. So now another thing that can impair your Agni is stress. So people who get worked up very easily, people who eat in between calls, people who eat in the middle when they have back-to-back meetings, and they find 5 minutes or 2 minutes to eat. They're so stressed out, and when you eat and you're stressed, yes, driving and eating. Basically, when you're doing something else when you're eating, or when you're stressed when you're eating, that'll impair your Agni. That'll lead to indigestion and other digestive disorders. Ice water or cold water, when you have them with your meals, or if you have them before or after your meals, also it'll completely ruin your Agni. It'll kind of wash out your Agni, and that can lead to impairment of Agni. And the last thing, another important thing, lack of exercise will take your Agni for a toss. So basically, these are all very commonly seen things. I'm sure, you know, I'm sure there were a few of these that we would have done at some point in our lives. So these are very common things, and these are things that you have to educate your client. You have to talk to them about it. You have to tell them to change it, so that you can control the Agni. Like I told you, once you have the Agni under control, your treatment becomes very easy. Like I told you, the combos are bad because they are opposite qualities. If you have anything that is opposite quality, that will lead to an impairment of your Agni. Yeah. So now coming to the states of Agni. So these are different types of Jhatara Agni, the gastric, the digestive fire. The first thing is Sama Agni. Sama Agni is a good form. So Sama Agni means your Agni is balanced. It has the perfect combination of the three doshas. So here you have good immunity and you can eat whatever you want to eat and your body will digest it. So you just have to make sure that all the 6 rasas are there in your food. So you basically make sure that you have a balanced diet in order to have the Sama Agni. This is the most ideal avastha of Agni. But sadly, this is very rarely seen, with the kind of food and the kind of life that you have today. Very rarely do you come across people who have Sama Agni. And when someone comes to you with a problem, you know that their Agni is not okay and that they need to work, you need to work on the Agni. The next thing is Vishama Agni. Vishama Agni is when there is Vata vitiation in your Agni. There is irregular Agni. There's a lot of disturbance in your Agni. It can either be a lot of Agni or too little Agni. So basically, it leads to indigestion. It leads to irregular appetite, gas. There can be constipation, pain. You'll have clients who come and tell you that they can feel a lot of movement in their stomach and they can hear noises in their stomach. All that happens when there's a lot of gas in your stomach, when there's a lot of vayu in your stomach. And in that case, your Agni is Vishama Agni. So to help a person who has Vishama Agni, you give herbs that are Madura, sweet and pungent. You can give things like Hingu, which is asafoetida, or Trikatu, or Chitraka, that will help balance out the Agni and maintain a constant Agni. The next is Tikshna Agni. So when Pitta is good, your Agni is Sama Agni. But when Pitta is very high, it will lead to Tikshna Agni, where there is excess Agni. There's very sharp excess heat, and that will lead to heartburn. That will lead to a burning sensation in the stomach, hot flashes, hypermetabolism, and you start digesting food faster. You eat something and before you know it, you're hungry again. It's a very uncomfortable feeling in the stomach, and people would have anger. They would crave for sweets, and most people who have hyperacidity, who have ulcer, they would have tikshna agni. So you give herbs that are very mild, have very mild sour herbs. You can give guduchi, shatavari, amchur, and you can give them cow's ghee. Organic cow's ghee can be given to help pacify that pitta. The last thing is Manda Agni. So Manda Agni is when the Agni is very dull, very slow, very low Agni, sometimes no Agni. This is usually kapha related, when there's a kapha vitiation in your Agni. So here what happens is hypometabolism. There's absolutely no appetite, and when you eat food, you still feel that you even after maybe a few hours, you still feel you have food in your stomach, and you don't feel like eating anything more. There can be edema. There can be you start craving for hot, for spicy and dry foods. So people who have Manda Agni, you give them herbs that are pungent and bitter. You can give them trikatu, cinnamon or ginger. Now, another thing that you can, another way of finding out what kind of Agni a person has, one is obviously asking questions and looking for these symptoms that are given to you in the slide show. Apart from that, with your examination, you can examine the nadi. Another thing that you can do is examine the tongue. So if a person has Vishama Agni, and if there is you know kapha, sorry, if there is vata, you will see symptoms of vata. uh, you will see dryness. You will see symptoms of vata, like they would complain of pain in the nadi. There would be excess vata. Sometimes you can even hear the different noises that the patient complains of. When they're talking to you, you can kind of feel that. Same thing for pitta and kapha. You look for the dosha related symptoms in the person when they come to you with agni. So, agni assessment, you need to ask questions about their appetite. Is there a lack of appetite, or is there a very strong appetite, or an average appetite? You need to ask them questions about the kind of food they eat. um, you have to you have to specifically ask them um, about breakfast, about lunch, dinner, what they have, snacks in between food. Is there something that they eat? What sort of beverages do they drink during food, and so on. And then you ask them about whether they use food supplements, whether they use laxatives, whether they drink caffeine or alcohol, sodas, how many times a day, how many times a week, whether they eat food from out, and then general energy when they don't have caffeine or energy drinks, and then when they have that, and so on. So you basically just need to keep asking a lot of questions. Um, you need to ask a lot of questions, and then you need to assess the Agni, and in that process assess what dosha is related with the Agni. I know it sounds a little complicated, but if you do it a couple of times and you get a hang of it, it becomes easier. So, other considerations: diet and daily routine. What time do they eat their food? This again is important. So, most of the people, if you tell them that you need to eat 3 meals and you need to eat it in time, they normally eat food when they're doing something else. They're either watching TV, or they're working, or they're driving, or they're on the phone. They're doing something else. So you need to figure that out, because when you eat, you need to sit, you need to concentrate on your food, and you need to eat. What is the main meal of the day? Is it um, sorry? Is it the breakfast? Is it lunch or dinner? What do they eat? How much quantity of food do they eat? You need to find all that out. The diet, see whether they're vegetarians, whether they eat egg, dairy, whether they're vegans, meat eaters. Do they fast? Do they eat too fast? Another thing that you have to see is whether people, if you have clients who fast a lot, they are prone to have Vishamagni when they don't eat food at all, and when they fast a lot. We need to find that out. Whether they eat very late at night, what time is dinner, and you need to see whether they eat any of these, like leftover foods, frozen foods, processed packaged foods, raw foods, whether they buy local produce, or whether they use organic food, and so on. You just basically need to ask them a lot of questions, and make them, you need to have a perfect idea about their diet in order to assess their Agni, and in order to give recommendations. Only if you know what they do every day can you give recommendations, and can you give suggestions. So, digestion. When there's a kapha influence, there's either you feel heavy, you feel like sleeping after you eat, there's a lot of sluggishness, you feel heavy after you eat your food, or after you eat certain foods. So, you need to ask what time they feel heavy. You need to see when they sleep, how whether they're lethargic, whether they're okay with their usual activities, whether they have a proper appetite, and so on. When there's vata influence, you can kind of hear the gurgling sound. You ask them about bloating, there would be gas formation, there would be flatulence after meal, and sometimes they're very hungry, sometimes they're not hungry. They can have constipation, or they have they pass stools with a lot of pain, and with a lot of gas that is passed out. So you need to ask questions based on these symptoms. And when there's pitta, there would be acid reflux, there would be heartburn, diarrhea, loose stools. Most common symptom is burning sensation. There would be a lot of burning sensation, and normally when a person has acid reflux and has a lot of pitta, and they come to you, when you talk to them, you can kind of smell that pitta in their you can smell it in their breath. there would be that very strong acid smell that you can feel from their breath when they talk to you, and so it's very evident when there's a pitta influence. So again, you ask questions based on the symptoms, so you get a better idea. Now the questions are basically for you to diagnose, and then for you to give your suggestions and recommendations accordingly. So now coming to a very important aspect, we're just going to start this today. This is called armor. Armor, just in very simple words, means undigested food. It's just some kind of a toxin or a waste product that is there, that is in your stomach, and that can lead to a lot of conditions. So when Agni is not in its Sama Avastha, when Agni is not in its ideal Avastha, food cannot be properly digested and broken down. So this food that is not properly digested is what is armor. So when you have armor, these are some of the common signs that you can see. There would be a coated tongue, low energy, heaviness, that is you feel very heavy. There's heaviness in different parts of your body. Putrid body odor, very distinct with armor. When someone has armor and when they talk to you, you can smell that armor. And the smell doesn't come from the mouth alone, it comes from the body. You can smell armor from the person's body. There's loss of appetite, there's depression, there's trouble concentrating, and there's a generalized pain, a very dull pain, and they're very prone to infections. So this armor is basically a very sticky and heavy, and it circulates throughout the body, and it can block different channels, and it can cause various diseases. So basically, if there is armor and this armor circulates, and if it goes to your joints, it can cause arthritis. If it goes to your arteries, it can cause a plaque build up in the artery. If it goes to another part of your body, it can lead to some kind of a problem in that part of the body. So for you to treat this armor, you have to first bring down this armor from different channels, from wherever it has gone and lodged itself. You need to bring it to the amashaya or the stomach, and then it can be eliminated, removed from the body. That is when you do your panchakarma. But before that, if it is not that serious, if it hasn't gone, if it hasn't circulated, and if it hasn't gone to different parts of your body, if it hasn't gone to block any of your srotases, then you can do something very simple called a armor pachanam, where this armor is digested, giving herbs and spices. Like you can give trikatu, you can give any deepana pachana dravya that will help to digest this armor and remove the armor. So this is also a very commonly seen thing in our practice. So there are three different types of armor: kapha armor, vata armor, and pitta armor. So kapha armor has kapha qualities, like it's heavy, sticky, it's white in nature, it's dull, cloudy. It's typically seen in the stomach, chest, lungs, and sinuses. So, like I told you, you can look at the coating. The tongue will always have a coating when there's armor. So, if a person has kapha armor, you examine the tongue. The tongue will have a white coating. That is very specific to kapha armor. So, and kapha armor is usually related with manda agni. The agni would be very poor. So, if a person has kapha armor, you can give them pungent, bitter, and astringent herbs. Like you can give dry ginger, black pepper, pipali, cumin, mustard, hingu, trikatu, churna, chitraka churna, or garlic. Now, if there is vata in the armor, then usually the person would have Vishama Agni, and this vata will kind of dry out the ama, and it's located in the colon and the lower abdomen. So when you examine the tongue, there would be a brownish coating on the tongue. So if there is vata ama, you can give pungent and sour herbs, you can give fresh ginger, chitraka, hinguashtaka churna, and so on. We'll again do armor in detail much later, so you can learn about it in detail later, but we just, this is just a very basic information about armor. And if it is pitta armor, usually it would be associated with tikshna agni. So it'll be burnt up like charcoal. There'll be a burning sensation, and the tongue would have a yellowish coating that is seen. It is typically found in the small intestine, the liver, gallbladder. It'll circulate through the blood. So, if a person has pitta ama, you can give them bitter, sour, and astringent herbs, neem, guduchi, avipatikara churnam, and so on. So, this is this is just a sum. I'm summing it up with this. This is taken from the Rig Veda. The human body is the temple of God. One who kindles the light of awareness within gets true light. The sacred flame of your inner shrine is constantly bright. The experience of unity is the fulfillment of human endeavors. The mysteries of life are revealed. So, with this, we come to an end of Agni. Do you have any doubts with Agni? Was it too much? It was just a little more in detail compared to what you did in the previous class. In the previous class where we learned about Agni. Do you have any doubts? I hope I've answered all your questions, and I hope I haven't missed out on anything. All right, thank